I know.
The WWE, I was, I recently did a story was summing up the various issues with that. And, when you were the CEO from '96 to 2006. Now they have a drug policy now, but you did suspend it at that time. And I read in your testimony that it was partly because of competition from Ted Turner's work and so. Given the issues with steroids, do you think that was really the right thing to do? Are you concerned about that there's still a little too much question about steroids in the wrestling industry?
Well, I can tell you that, well, first of all, we had had very stringent drug testing policy, in place. We really weren't seeing, we'd seen, absolute no instances of drug abuse. It wasn't just about steroids, so it was really steroids, it was drugs of abuse, it was illegal drugs, and so it was a full testing program then. And so we were, monitoring that, and we had seen a real change in the lifestyle of the men and women who were part of WWE. At the same time, we had just finished in 1994, we had come out of the federal trial and investigation relative to, the whole case was kind of built around steroids, found innocent, totally exonerated both the company and Vince McMahon, who had both been charged, and fully exonerated. And during that time, Ted Turner, who was an incredible competitor, had gone full bore in, taking talent from WWE, building up his business. He had the money of Time Warner behind him. It was really full-on competition. And we were struggling. We had spent about 2.5 years really battling at that particular time. We were really struggling to stay alive at that point with our business. We had, I think, the first 2 years after that the company had lost business, had lost money. And so we were really struggling to stay even. And no other entertainment company, I think you have to look at WWE as an entertainment company, no different than Hollywood. And no other entertainment company, including WCW with Ted Turner, was doing any kind of drug testing. And so it wasn't a level playing field, and they clearly had a strong financial advantage. And so that, combined with the fact that we've seen a real difference in the men and women, we suspended drug testing. We always maintained the right to test for cause, and would do that from time to time. And so that was why we suspended the policy.
The problems with wrestlers continued even through that period and then beyond. There were couples. Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero, I guess, was the first one in '95. Well,
Chris Benoit, yes, Eddie Guerrero. Even before Eddie's death, we had begun to restructure our policy to make it not just drug testing, but it was a full health and wellness policy. And we continued to work with Dr. David Black to put that policy together. And Eddie died during the time that we were talking about it. Eddie had a long history of drug abuse, and he had a congenital heart problem as well. And so he passed away, and after that, that was in '05, and in '06, February of '06, I think it was, we reintroduced the full health and wellness policy, which we've tweaked. Since then, it'll continue to evolve. Since that particular time, what was never part of that before was the concussion policy, using impact, which is right now it's pretty much the standard that's utilized by the NFL, other sports teams, by colleges and universities, high schools across the country. So we feel very good about having that in place. It's annual physicals for WWE talent, full echocardiograms, and with a cardiologist doing evaluations. And we actually picked up at one point a defect from one young man, and probably saved his life because he didn't know that he had any kind of an issue or a problem. So it's a, you know, the goal is to keep these men and women as healthy as can be. There's a doctor that travels with each group, as well as either one or two trainers. And so there are lots of precautions, you know, that are there to make sure that we keep them as healthy as they can be.
WWE characterizes as an entertainment industry, but it's a little different from Hollywood in that they are doing athletic things. I mean, if a wrestler or Tom Cruise is taking cocaine, that's not going to affect their performance, and it's going to hurt, if anything, just like Babe Ruth drinking beer at the end of it.
Wait, what did you start out with at first? You said a wrestler and Tom Cruise using cocaine?
If they're taking cocaine.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know what Tom Cruise did. I'm sure there's some Hollywood star somewhere who's taking a little bit of cocaine at some point. And that's not really related to their work, you know, so to speak. They're acting. It's something they shouldn't be doing. It's illegal. Whereas if a wrestler is taking steroids, they're doing it as part of the persona or as part of the act, or maybe as being stronger. So it's really sort of related, more like baseball. Taking steroids in baseball is related. They're taking it to do better at what they do. So in that respect, it's more like sport than entertainment, isn't it?
Well, if you are a superstar in WWE, taking steroids does not enhance your performance. You're not expected to jump higher, throw a ball farther, run faster. So it's not enhancing your performance in WWE. However, if that same superstar was using cocaine, or was using any kind of a drug that it would impair his or her performance in the ring, you know, you have an athletic soap opera in that ring, you know, with intense timing and performance, and so you could hurt yourself or someone else if you are using any kind of drug that would impair your performance.
Right. Any feelings about
Excuse me, just one thing.
Yeah,
you know, when we went back to introducing the drug testing policy, one of the things that kept coming to our attention was a bit of abuse in prescription drugs. And that was, so if you go on the website for WWE, you can see the long list of drugs that are tested for.
I've seen it. I read the policy.
Okay.
And then the other thing about WWE is, there's a group of women that got together yesterday that said that it's not suitable fare for young women and or for children in general. Do you have any feelings about it? I mean, I know it's rated PG, but there's still the images, or a lot of people consider them either objectifying women or glorifying violence. I was watching a little bit of the TV shows, and there's a lot of throwing people around and jumping on them and stuff. It's not what I want my son to be doing at the playground.
Exactly right. So therefore, you talk to your son about that. There's 16 million people every week watch WWE in this country. 70% are 18 and older, and it is obviously a very entertaining event. But the content has evolved from TV 14 to now it's TV PG. And I'm really happy with the evolution of that content. I think it's been appropriate. I think it was the right thing to do. And so a lot of the footage that's shown up, from YouTube is clearly some of the most outrageous segments. But if you consider that this is the longest running episodic weekly program in the history of television, in terms of number of episodes, longer than Lassie, longer than Gunsmoke, and there are over hundreds of thousands of hours in this library. And are there going to be segments that, you go back and you look at them and you go, wow, I'm glad we've evolved with our content, to where it is today, which is PG. Now, the content that was on broadcast was always PG, but TV 14 was on cable. Cable had started out, later at night.
But back when it was a little rougher and a little more out there, you were the CEO, so I think the concern is not where it's at now. Okay, it's evolved somewhat even cynically say that that's because you're running, that it's become more...
Well, yeah, that is the cynic
But,
version.
but in any case, as the CEO in 2000 or whenever it was, and when they were doing some of these things, you didn't say, this isn't good, let's change this. So, is that a
Well,
fair
I think you have to, we could spend probably until tomorrow talking about the evolution of WWE. But you have to understand the full evolution of this industry and where it's come from. It was an itinerant traveling show where there would be talent that would show up, called by the promoter, hey, we're going to be at such and such high school, you're booked for the event. Someone else would bring a ring in the back of a pickup truck or rental truck and set up a ring, and you had one light over the ring. That's an industry that has evolved to where it is today. And you know what? It's not easy to change the culture of an industry. It's not easy to make all of those inroads, to build a corporate structure that is going to have, and especially now that's a public company since 1999, with the concerns and considerations of a public company. When WWE first got started, or WWF at that point, the only revenue source was tickets to live events. So now there are licensed products, there are movies that are made out of The Office on the West Coast. So with that whole evolution has come the evolution of content, the evolution of company policies and procedures. And so I would like to think that if we look back from the mid to late 70s to where we are today, it's an incredible accomplishment to have moved content as well as policy and to have grown a company during that time. And I think that that's what any good corporate executive does, continues to look at what you're doing and to continue to move the ball forward.
And I think that is good, if that's good for you, because we are out of time.
One quick question. Have you touched base with Joe Lieberman at all with anything?
I've chatted with Joe, sure.
What do you think of Joe?
I don't know him well, except to have said hello to him just a couple of times. But
You think he
good,
might
decent
endorse you?
guy.
You think he might endorse you?
Don't know, we'll have to wait and see. You have to ask Joe.
Great. Thank you very much, Linda. I
Very
appreciate
welcome.
it.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Be well.
too.
Be well. Be well.
Nice to see you.
So actually, just about out of questions, I was going to ask you about